All right. Go ready to talk about some extremophiles. This was NMD96's request for a deep dive. I don't think NMD knew she was going to be getting a 3-part deep dive, but what can I say? We made it into a 3-parter. So we'll be chatting about extremophiles again, a little bit more into what they are, a smidge about some of their genetics, and a couple of more examples of these organisms, which have a wide array of types, shapes, genetic backgrounds. They're not necessarily very tiny creatures. They can be larger creatures. We talked about the Greenland shark that also counts as an extremophile. We'll talk about a couple of underwater creatures as well. So we're gonna have fun with it. All right, you guys ready? Let's go ahead and get started then. Today on the SciAnts News Friday. Again, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today and being here. Really appreciate it. And let me see if that first redeem. Yeah, we're so weird about that first redeem being out of stock. We'll figure it out, chat. Just to set the tone, this is from the National Science Foundation. So, KT! It is Happy Saturday. Welcome on in. And Caledon K2. How are you guys doing today? It's good to see y'all. We're just getting started on the science today, talking about extremophiles, our part 3 deep dive. Should be a lot of fun. Should be a lot of fun to chat about today. Again, different examples of organisms, what they are, how they behave, a whole bunch of stuff. I hope you guys will enjoy it today. Hi, Skip!
Hello there. Hello there.
So that bacteria looks absolutely gnarly cool, right? It does not look like any kind of bacteria that I've regularly seen before, which I think is really, really neat. But here is the bacteria that they're researching Golganak. So it's a Leptospira species, and it causes leptospirosis. Again, it goes from like water, mud, soil areas into rodent vectors, and then it can go into animals as well, is the cycle, and sometimes it gets into humans that work with these particular animals. Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So it's really salty mud, and that salt concentration is high enough where most organisms don't survive well or reliably. So that's why they're considered an extremophile for this particular instance. So again, the definition of extremophile is much broader and wider than we would normally chat about. Because normally, like, I've always thought it's like, oh, some bacteria, but it seems like it could be a variety of different critters, just depending on where they live. Yes, rotini pasta, indeed, Grimly. But it's a living organism. And the way they move, it's like a screw of how it's going. I think that's really, really cool. So what's cool about this scientist in particular, I think that he does work for NASA. And so there is a connection between, and we will jump to that after, is how there could be life on other planets because of the identification of extremophiles. We touched a bit on this last week, and we're going to round out that discussion to this week as well. I just thought it'd be a nice little intro to talk about the work on this stage, if that makes sense. Each one of these organisms that they're keeping in the lab is an extremophile in some way. So these extremophiles, they all have different modes and means of staying alive. Either they'll stay alive using heat or salt or pH, and they all have these different living conditions. There's no way to standardize all these little different critters. And this we've talked, I know I keep interrupting guys, but you know how we talk about the different elements of these videos. I think it's super cool that each one of these have their very own specialized means of keeping them growing. It makes sense, but remember we talked about a few weeks ago that some researchers tried to get them to grow using standard cell culture media, and we're having a lot of trouble with it because they're so specialized for what we call stressful conditions, but for them, our unstressful for them is their stressful, if that makes sense. Makes sense, you wouldn't grow a human in an environment that is inhospitable to them. I can see someone having a misconception extreme fail bacteria would be able to survive room temp. Caledon, that was what one of the videos, I think the very 3 weeks ago when we started this topic we were chatting about. They brought in extremophiles from Antarctica and tried to culture them in regular cell culture media, and they just kept dying. And like you said, it makes sense, but it wasn't, what it wasn't known was, did they still have the ability to live in good conditions, or have they totally adapted to extreme conditions, now becoming their good conditions? That distinction wasn't yet clear. It is Zen. So they are talking about, right, the extremophiles, and given that there are these organisms that live in these quote-unquote inhospitable regions on our planet, we wonder if they could live in other planets that we had previously maybe deemed inhospitable or not ideal for life. There might already be life because these example of these particular organisms, which I think is really cool. I think there's probably lots of other things on other planets. Yeah, so Sparky, is just how we think about it, right? If you think that there can only be things that would live on our planet in ideal circumstances, right, then maybe not. But if even on our planet there's all these less than ideal circumstances and extreme situations where animals and creatures are thriving, trying to find my radioactive animals. Here we go. Radiation extremophiles, folks. Ones that actually can survive radiation of different, of all different types, shapes, sizes. So yeah, a fungus that can survive radioactivity. And this is an example of an extremophile, which I think is super, super cool. And terrifying, too. And a little bit like Kevin, Brett. Would you get anything that thrives on it? You mean that eats the radioactive fungus, Sparky? Evolution will find a way. And if there is something that can eat, like it to be eaten, something will evolve the ability to eat it. My guess would be that there could be something that would have some resilience to, like, radiation, and therefore it can also eat and consume the fungus. It just needs to evolve that particular what's the best way of like resistance to the radiation. I've heard of that fungus keep radiation for a long time. Example, after Chernobyl, it was recommended not eating mushrooms in a long time from Europe. Yeah, Caro, that was the beginning of this video too, is that there had been that radioactive meltdown, and then there were these radioactive fungi that can survive radiation. And we were chatting too, it's like, I wonder how quickly it starts to evolve, because it's constantly being hit with radiation, or does it have the possibility and potential to, like, does it have like insanely good DNA repair machinery? And so even though it keeps getting bombarded with radiation, maybe it's able to have like a nice straightforward cellular repair mechanism. So there's a lot of cool reasons to study it, from a lot of different perspectives. The DNA is shredded from radiation, and then the organism repairs it on its own. So it's normally what you'd call it dead, right? Because everything's totally shredded. If that happens to our cells, it's game over, right? Apparently, this fungus goes into a state of stasis, like a pause mode almost. After the high levels of radiation have like settled, it then repairs itself, and it continues to make proteins, RNA, all the things. So that's one thought, RPG, radiation poisoning, because if you, like, so it's like, you kill your bone marrow as well from radiation, or killing your cells to the point they, like, you're shredding your DNA, nothing can divide anymore. It would be amazing to be able to utilize this kind of repair mechanism. Now, one thing I don't know, RPG, is how good the DNA repair mechanism is at play here. Is it good enough to do a full repair, or when it does a repair, are there mismatches? Is it not a perfect repair that we're seeing? If it's not a perfect repair, that could also be a bad thing, because it could lead to like more negatives happening, right? It could be like, yeah, you're repairing the DNA, and there's, genes that could get turned off or turned on differently. Yeah, exactly, RPG. But it might be that this fungus just has the ability to survive a broad range of repairs, like a mismatch or several, like, really doesn't affect it that much. But it might be, if different enough, in humans, right? I think so. Chris, maybe this isn't a derail. They are kind of an extremophile. Like, the pressure they can survive the different areas. Again, like Zin says, the radiation resistance too. But see, Claire, this is a question for you and chat as well. When I was a kid, I'm still like kind of working my way of getting unstuck with this idea. In the textbook, it had suggested that extremophiles are only single cell or very tiny multicellular organisms. But as of today, I would, we talked about like the Greenland shark, right, that Alex had mentioned, is an extremophile. Cockroaches can be assumed that the tardigrades, the fungus, there's all these other kinds of creatures, like deep in the ocean creatures as well. So it's, as Claire says, it's very much expanding, like, of what our definition of extremophiles are. And it's also, like, because it's expanding, it's not so much of, like, a crazy terminology, right? Yeah, the iron-shelled snails that live in volcanic geysers. That RPG kicks the definition of your original, like, very small, single-celled kind of creatures. But there's, snails that live in in like, extreme heat. Or there's the lava sharks, too, right? That live near, like, very hot resources. So there's insane amounts of... I know what.
Say what?
Animals and a wide range of creatures as well, which we can't get into all the extremophiles. Not in lava, Claire, but near like extreme heat that they're surviving. Yeah. I know, Claire's like, get out of here. Get out of here. But it's like, in my textbooks, these were not a thing. And so I think it's just pointing... Oh, Claire! This is Claire Burr right now is saying, Balint, all your content Monday through Friday is garbage. It's Sunday too. Sunday's a hit of garbage as well. But like, Saturday, that's where it's at. No, Claire. Claire's like... Claire, I know. Look, ma'am, I got you. I just you were adding me for being silly Willy, and I added you right back. I can't deny it, Claire. It's date night. It's date night, Claire. It's date night. RPG, that is an insanely giant link. But it didn't break, so we can click it. Yeah, here it is. It's got an interesting name, too. Scalyfoot gastropod. As known as 3 hydrothermal vent fields along deep sea ridges in the Indian Ocean is where it's endemic. Yeah, this is the appearance. Stunning. Love you, Claire Burr. How about? Ma'am. Terrifying. This is like 100% nightmare fuel. Also, it's not like that's the shell and there's like the little stalks coming out. Hello, Ant. You too. You too, Zen. You too. Alright, hold on, Claire. You can get back to the cockroaches. I'll find you the lava shark. There are different amounts of radiation that the fruit flies can take as well. I think cockroaches have a higher tolerance, but we're not talking huge amounts either. Cockroaches have some use in drug research. Yeah, well, Hyper, they have... they're also looked at for development a lot. Yeah, I know, RBG, right? I think it's the aphids that are milked. Some give live births. So development has been heavily studied in cockroaches as well, which is kind of cool. Claire, I found your question, ma'am. Here's the expedition.
We found sharks living in the crater of the volcano, which is really wild because it's one of the most active submarine volcanoes in the world. Once you find that, it's like...
Living in the crater of the volcano. Yeah.
And we got a lot more to check out.
There are hammerheads there, Claire. I think there's a couple of other species that are also adapted to that area. Because the water temperature, the carbon dioxide levels, and the pH are not hospitable to humans. I think with our current definition of what extremophiles are, you would probably fit the sharks in with that definition, right? So those are the sharks. Hi, Moodoodles. Welcome in. How are you doing today? Good to see you. Guys, believe we have to end it there for today. Reason being is Lita's almost home, and it is date night, and so I don't want to get in trouble, and I also want to be able to enjoy date night with Miss Lita. Because next Saturday I won't even be in town, so we're going to miss next weekend's date night because I'll be in California. So I want to go have a nice date night with my wife. I hope that's okay, you guys. I hope y'all don't mind. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Carlos. So, we're going to go over here. Y'all, we have talked about extremophiles for a third week in a row. I think this will probably be the last week that we talked about have talked about extremophiles. I think it's been a very interesting topic. This was redeemed by NMD96. I think what we're going to do is the next time we do a deep dive, I'll probably start on a new topic. We'll go through one of the next topics on the requested list. So we'll go ahead and cross off extremophiles from the list. I'll put all the videos that we've been watching today as well on the Discord. So feel free to join the Discord if you guys want access to all the links in the videos, if you guys don't mind. Feel free to join. We also do science trivia every day. We have a lot of fun there. I think it's a good time. Thanks for watching SciAnts Media, and be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons to help our channel grow and support our science outreach and education goals. We can be found on Twitch most days of the week, and be sure to join us here for our next video. Thanks again, and stay curious, everyone.